Ivy coach.
Hello and welcome to I Spy. Tonight, more incredible stories captured on video and surveillance cameras. The £30 million RAF spy plane that ended up not in the air but in the sea. The bride and groom whose wedding was gate-crashed by uninvited guests. And the cameras that keep a wary eye on our safety as we travel. Plus, how you can help detectives cut crime in our video appeal. But we start tonight with an amazing story that really could only happen in America. It's the tale of a violent gang who spent their evenings terrorizing the local neighborhood. What they didn't realize was that they were about to give the police all the evidence they needed. A night like any other in the Los Angeles suburb of Van Nuys. But the calm is about to be shattered.
Let's just do this. No, I'm not going to do the window. Oh.
Delinquent high spirits well out of hand. 4 middle-class teenagers filming themselves vandalizing cars with a baseball bat. But even worse is to follow. Local mechanic Tom McDonald was walking to a nearby supermarket with a friend.
I heard a bang, and all I could think about was I'm being shot. I'm hit with something in the face, and the first one hit me here and then along the side of the head, and it burned so bad and it just peeled up in front of my face. I turned and ran. And as much as I heard a pop, 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 I was hit every time. And it burned. It hurt bad.
The gang had shot him with a paintball gun. The paint bullets travel at 300 feet per second. In Britain, it's illegal to even carry the guns on the street. Without protection, they can blind or even kill.
So it could have taken my life. It hit me right below the eye right here, and hit me right in the temple of the eye. You know, a paintball hitting you in the temple from 6 feet away could kill you.
Leaving Tom badly injured and in need of urgent hospital treatment, the gang continued their attacks, filming all the time.
Woo! I got him in the face! Oh, I got a cigarette!
But they were stupid as well as vicious. Look at the corner of the screen, a black and white patrol car. Suddenly the pictures stop. The gang were under arrest.
Well, as the tape began, it gave me a chill, but as it went on, it was a horrific experience, seeing the joy that they were getting out of their conduct.
In the car, police found 2 paintball rifles and 200 pellets. There were 20 attacks on the video, which was shown across America and used in court. Its impact got the gang 4 years each in jail.
You can't describe the feeling you have when you turn and look at a gun that looks like a full-on assault rifle, and you see your life flash in front of you. Like that.
The sight of cameras monitoring our every move as we board a train or travel on the underground is now routine for most of us. CCTV has helped cut crime on the railways, and buses are now copying the success story. It's late at night upstairs on a crowded bus, and a fight erupts. Another late night, this time on a Dublin bus, and another fight's in full swing. Now watch. A routine bus journey is shattered by a missile thrown through the window. Take another look. The woman on the left only narrowly escapes injury. Of course, not all misbehavior on buses is criminal. These Bradford school children were blissfully unaware they were being filmed when they celebrated the end of term with a flour and water fight. But thanks to these pictures, the bus company were able to bill the parents for the £200 worth of damage caused. This North London bus company has gone one step further. Faced with an expensive vandalism problem, they decided to hit back.
Over the past 2 years, we've noticed real problems in terms of damage being caused to our buses. We've had kids graffiti in the buses, New York style, tagging them and destroying them. We've also had them kicking the seats through on buses. They're now starting to set fire to them. This company estimates that it spends £250,000 each year on putting damaged buses right.
This is all that's left of one of their buses after an arson attack. To avoid this kind of devastation, the bus company decided to install a sophisticated camera system.
This is the type of camera we use on this particular vehicle. On this vehicle we've got 8 cameras hidden. The reason we hide them is because if we don't, they're going to be vandalised as well. The reason they're so small is because we hide them in particular places on this vehicle. The handrails, we can hide them in the handrails, behind seats, in the ceiling, behind nuts, behind rivets. So from that we can form a complete picture of what they do the time they get on the vehicle. And obviously in a court of law we have to have that information.
When the cameras catch the culprits, Cowie Leaside put posters like these up on their buses and offer a reward for information.
The posters we put on our buses got an excellent result. Indeed, we had school children queuing outside our office trying to claim a £500 reward. Within 24 hours, both the culprits shown on the buses had been arrested. One got a caution and one has been successfully prosecuted.
The most prolific vandal was this young man, known by his tag name, Fist.
I'd never imagined that I'd been filmed on the buses, and when I saw the poster, I was trying to remember when I did that, and I had no clue at all that anything was on me, like, looking at me. I was just really shocked. Getting caught and just getting in trouble with doing loads of graffiti on buses was the thing that sort of made up my mind about stopping graffiti.
With this kind of success rate, whether the cameras are capturing acts of violence like this, or this, where a middle-aged woman wades in to stop a fight, it looks like cameras on buses are here to stay. Most people who have ever walked around a zoo will have found themselves wondering what would happen if the animals actually escaped from their cages. One hot summer's day in Northern Ireland, that's exactly what happened. It seemed like a perfect summer's day out for Fiona McClenaghan and her family when they visited the Causeway Safari Park near Portrush.
We went in to see the lions enclosure. It was really interesting. We were having a fun day. So we headed off to see the chimpanzees, and we were starting for a while filming because they were really interesting to watch. It was really fun to see him throwing the ball out to the people. It was such a hot day, so we had decided to go to the bar area for a drink. And on arriving, people were all coming shouting that one of the chimps had got out.
To everyone's shock, 3 of the chimps had escaped and were roaming freely around the park.
Chimpanzees have the potential to be very, very dangerous animals indeed. If provoked, they are capable of being extremely aggressive. These chimps in particular were mature, 30 years old, 20-stone chimps. They have the upper body strength of 8 to 10 men and are capable of covering large distances in a very short period of time. On that summer's day, the owners of the park were facing a potentially lethal situation.
Linda Moody was also at the park.
We went into the cafeteria to hide from the chimp, and then all of a sudden we heard that the chimp had come into the cafeteria. I couldn't get out through the front door, so there was nowhere for me to go, and I had to just stand in the corner and hope that it would be okay.
The panicking crowd had excited the chimp, which was running up and down, terrorizing everyone. One man tried to control the frightened animal.
There was a man in front of us with the chair. He fought the chimp off. If it hadn't been for him, we definitely, I think, would have been killed that day.
The keeper tried in vain to entice the animal back to its enclosure. Some people managed to shut themselves in the bar to escape, but the chimp tried to follow.
There was a big smash on the door, and everyone started running to one corner of the bar shouting. One of the chimps had actually put the glass in, on banging, trying to get into the bar area. But then a whole lot of men lifted a snooker table and they jarred it up against the door, and everybody was just shouting and squealing, and it was really, really frightening. I thought whenever this chimp gets in, there's nowhere really for us to get out. We would be torn to bits.
Amazingly, it took over an hour for the chimps to be cornered, tranquilized, and returned to their cage.
People said at the time that there was no danger to life and that it was only a bit of fun, and sure, what could a chimp do? But to me, that chimp could have killed me that day.
In January this year, the safari park went bankrupt and was then bought by the Ulster Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals.
My own personal belief is that these chimps escaped, just they were looking for human company. It was a pure curiosity thing. These are ex-circus chimps. They've been used to human contact all their life, and they really only got out to see what was going on with the human beings in the rest of the park.
Time for us to take a break now, but coming up in part 2, the spy plane that crashed on camera, and this week's Street Watch. Welcome back. Time now for this week's Street Watch, where we examine the impact of CCTV around Britain. We begin with the story of how cameras proved to be the downfall of a killer. The world turned upside down, a popular pub in South London's Old Kent Road. But one summer morning in 1995, it became a deadly inferno when fire ripped through the building. One young woman died and several other people were injured before being rescued by firefighters.
It was fairly obvious that this was not an accident, that the fire had been set deliberately, and we were actually dealing with a murder inquiry.
Police checked video footage from surveillance cameras in the area, looking for Thomas Curry, identified as a suspect because of a long-running feud with the landlord. From a petrol station just half a mile away, they got this. The man in blue is Thomas Curry. This second camera shows Curry queuing to pay for his petrol, clearly visible in his distinctive blue jacket. He's then picked up on yet another camera as he crosses the station forecourt.
We were able to see our suspect purchasing petrol, putting it into a petrol can and leaving the scene.
But there was a twist to the story. A few hours after the fire, a second man is seen also filling a petrol can, accompanied by his young son. He places the identical petrol can on the counter beside him, and as he pays, the camera gets a good look at him.
Our suspect obviously realised that he could have been seen by the cameras on the forecourt purchasing the petrol, and he actually arranged for one of his friends to go back at a later date and buy a can of petrol which he was going to keep to show that the petrol he'd bought wasn't what was used to start the fire. But what didn't seem to occur to either of them was that that second purchase was also viewed on camera and formed part of our evidence to dispel the story.
The camera evidence helped convict Curry of manslaughter and arson. He was given jail sentences totaling 10 years. The second man, Frederick Herschel, was found guilty of trying to pervert the course of justice and put on probation and ordered to do community service. The success of the case led Southwark Police to set up a scheme called Camera Watch. In partnership with local firms, they've mapped out the field of vision of more than 150 private security cameras. The instant a crime is reported, they know exactly who to go to for pictures. The good news is that burglary in the area has now fallen by 30%.
And I'm absolutely certain that the partnership that we've entered into with the community, with Camera Watch, is a vital part of that success story.
Crime is also being hit hard in Swansea, where the city centre boasts 59 cameras. This distinctly amateurish break-in was filmed in the early hours of a summer's morning. A youth uses a 12-foot metal pole to smash a car window. He then gingerly puts the pole on the ground. Taking his time, he leisurely gets into the car for a long, slow rummage around. He's blissfully unaware that a CCTV operator is watching his every move. Moments later, the police arrive, and he's a sitting duck. He was charged with criminal damage. These two youths are indiscriminately slashing car tyres. They start on this Bedford van, gouging at both the front and the back. The cameras track them round town. Here one of them steps in front of a car. They attack 2 more cars before they're arrested. One got 3 months jail, the other probation. It's the kind of thing you'd expect to see in a disaster movie. A crashed jet floating on the surface of the sea. For the RAF, it's a key part of any flyer's training. But what happens when that training gets called into action, when an exercise becomes reality? This is the story of a flight crew who found out. Squadron leader Art Stacey has been an RAF pilot for 30 years. On the 16th of May 1995, he was flight testing a £30 million Nimrod spy plane over the north coast of Scotland.
The weather for the trip was superb. It was a beautiful day, visibility unlimited. The sea state was calm, a perfect day for flying.
But soon after takeoff, one of the Nimrod's engines caught fire.
Velocity, Mayday, Bravo 3 Delta. We have an engine fire, number 4.
My first fear was that the aircraft would blow up. I thought the fuel tank would go, and that would be it. I didn't think we would make land. Hence, I decided, probably 5 minutes after the first indication, that we would be putting the aircraft on the water.
Ditching. Mayday, Bravo 3 Delta. Ditching.
In a coincidence, an RAF rescue helicopter was a few minutes away from the burning Nimrod. The crew were on a routine training exercise and were carrying a camcorder.
I saw an extremely bright light in the sky and the shape of the Nimrod behind it. And it was so bright, it was a bright sunny day, but it was so bright it was almost dazzling. That was the extent of the fire.
This was the moment the Nimrod went down, captured completely by chance on amateur video by a man on a nearby golf course.
100 feet, brace. Impacting now.
There was a very big splash indeed, and nobody knew at that stage whether there were any survivors or not.
The aircraft finally stopped, and the noise stopped. The silence was almost deafening.
Within 5 minutes, the rescue helicopter was on the scene.
It was quite a surreal picture, really. It was a nice, bright, sunny day, clear blue water, and a Nimrod sitting on the surface of the water as if nothing was wrong at all.
But inside the cockpit of the huge plane and under the water, the crew were still alive.
Having survived the impact, all 7 of us, the next concern, because of the smell of fuel, was to get away from the aircraft as quickly as possible. She was starting to creak and groan, and when we looked up we could see that the back was broken, so we realised that it wouldn't be too long before she would sink.
Somehow the crew managed to escape and inflate an emergency dinghy.
When we realised that everybody was safe, I suppose that was when we counted them out in the dinghy. Seeing their faces come up one by one, or 2 by 2 as it happened on the winch, there was such a mixture of human emotions in those faces. The chap that I identified as the captain, he looked like the world had fallen apart.
One of the crew was seriously injured. The rest escaped with minor injuries. Art Stacey's skill in handling the ditching is now widely studied by pilots as a textbook crash landing on water. The video turned out to be extremely valuable.
I think my feelings, looking back on the event now, the whole spectrum of emotions. First of all, disbelief that it actually happened. Anger that it was happening to me. I was very fortunate on that day. The weather was fine. I had a superb aircraft apart from the fire. But I also had a team behind me that everyone pulled their own weight and allowed me to make the decision, the difficult one, to ditch the aircraft.
Now, can you help police to solve a crime in our I Spy appeal? This smart-looking charmer chats to staff in a Southampton off-licence. He asks to see expensive bottles of spirits from the top shelf. But watch as he stuffs the charity box, full of donations for children with heart disease, into his expensive Barbour jacket. He chats for a while longer, but leaves without buying anything. If you recognise this man, please call Crime Stoppers on 0800 555 111. Calls are free and confidential. It's now more popular than ever for people to video their weddings for a permanent record of the happy day. But this is one wedding video that bears testimony to a far from successful ceremony. In fact, the day went so badly wrong that the bride can't bring herself to talk about it, let alone watch the tape. Her family take up the story. Childhood sweethearts Katerina Josie and Rufus Lawson had been in love for 11 years when they decided to get married. They saved hard to make it a day to remember, and Katerina looked beautiful in a £600 wedding gown. All the preparations had gone according to plan.
The day before, we had bachelorette party that night, and we were having a lot of fun, and everything seemed to be fine. She was really excited, and I was excited for her.
The job of videoing the wedding fell to the best man, Joseph Morris.
I had my camera and I was ready to shoot everything. I didn't want to miss nothing. Everybody was looking beautiful. Yeah. The bride, the groom, and we were just having a nice time.
But just as the bride was ready to kiss the groom, the police burst into the church and unceremoniously broke up the proceedings.
Oh, man. Ain't this a bitch? Let him kiss his bride, damn!
Everyone in the church started screaming. And they was hollering all kinds of things, and there's a lot of emotion going on.
Unknown to his bride, Rufus Lawson was on the run, following 2 jewellery shop armed raids. Thanks to a tip-off, the police knew where he would be. The moment the couple were legally married, they pounced.
Well, before we knew what was happening, and at the time I was working the camera, and so I seen what was happening, so I started filming this, and that's how I got it all on film.
Rufus's altar arrest brought a storm of protest from the church minister. The video was shown on television news across America. The police chief who ordered the raid was forced to apologize to Rufus's family.
There was no excuse for it, for them to come to church like that. There was so many different ways they could have did it besides this.
Rufus was convicted and is now serving a prison sentence of up to 20 years for armed robbery.
Katrina will wait for him, you know, because they have a very strong relationship, so she will be there for him.
That's almost it for tonight. I Spy will be back again next week with more extraordinary stories and incredible action. The people who were shipwrecked not once, but twice and survived to film both disasters. The medics who helped save lives by beaming pictures directly back to hospital surgeons. And the animal rescue stories filmed as they happen. But just before we leave you, the thief caught on camera with a lot of bottle. Good night.